Hi everyone, I'm John C. Morley, the host of the JMOR Tech Talk Show and Inspirations for Your Life. Hey guys, it is John C. Morley here, serial entrepreneur. Welcome to the JMOR Tech Talk Show. Today is Friday and it's March 28th, 2025. And this is the last Friday of March. That means the next time that you actually see me on the JMOR Tech Talk Show, it'll be April, and that'll be our April 4th show. All right. So we have a great show for you guys. As always, I am your host, John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur, not only a podcast host, but also a podcast coach. And I invite you to check out believemeachieve.com for more of my amazing, inspiring creations. By the way, that's available 24 hours a day. So you can check that out right after the show or any other time. Maybe you're not sleeping in the middle of the night and you just want to get some more wisdom. Well, then hop on over to believemeachieve.com. 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We're here. That's right. Any holiday, any time of day, whether it's night, whether it's morning, or whether it's a weekend, you can always find some great inspirational information with inspirations for your life, and also the JMOR Tech Talk Show and many of my other short form and other long form types of content. So welcome everyone once again to the JMOR Tech Talk Show. Today's show title is Tech Guides, Navigating the Latest Trends and Transformations. This is Series 4, and it is show number 13, ladies and gentlemen. And I know you can't wait for me to get into it because I have so many great things. It's another week of exciting updates on the JMOR Tech Talk Show, and you won't want to miss any of it. But if you do want to go grab yourself a cup of water or something to drink, like a soda or something hot or cold, or maybe something sweet or something healthy, go ahead and do that and hurry on back so you don't miss anything. So I'm diving deep into the latest tech headlines that are shaping the future of business, cybersecurity, and of course, digital innovation. So from ByteDance's attempts to save TikTok in the US to major shifts in data privacy and global tech policies, this episode covers everything you need to know, whether you're interested in the latest regulations in China or the newest self-driving car recalls. I've got you covered. Join me now as I explore the current events that are affecting big tech, international regulations, and the digital world at large. Tune in every single week on Friday, or you can catch believemeachieve.com anytime that you would like to watch. So the first thing I want to talk about is ByteDance. Yes, ByteDance investors negotiating deal to reduce Chinese ownership. Like, what's really going on with this? Because I think this is a big challenge for a lot of people to understand, what they're really doing. Well, ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, is actively negotiating with investors to reduce Chinese ownership in the company. This is a direct response to mounting pressures from the United States lawmakers and regulatory bodies concerned about the app's potential national security threats, with the U.S. government threatening, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, they are definitely threatening to ban TikTok unless certain ownership stakes are altered. ByteDance is looking for ways to meet these demands while still maintaining control over its business operations. This complex negotiation could determine the app's future in the U.S. and could set a precedent for how Chinese tech companies navigate international ownership and regulatory scrutiny. So your question is, how long does TikTok have till they may be shut down? And that is a very valid question. TikTok doesn't have a lot of time. Does anybody know when it will happen? Well, I got a hint for you. It's going to happen in April. Yes, TikTok's fate is coming down to the line. It's actually on April 5th. If ByteDance, unfortunately, is not able to find a buyer for TikTok's U.S. operations, the ban passed by Congress will kick in April 5th, which Vice President J.D. Vance told reporters not too long ago that the high-level agreement satisfying the U.S. national security concerns by early April was almost certain, and they are working on some things. So again, this could be a big problem. The campaign frames TikTok as a savior of Americans and a champion of small businesses as the app hurdles toward the April 5th deadline to sell the company to a non-Chinese owner or face a ban in the United States. And we all know how fast TikTok got shut down. It wasn't TikTok that shut themselves down. It's all the U.S. companies that did not want to get hit with these high fines because they're operating in the U.S. And if they did something wrong, they would definitely get penalized for it financially. Well, the FAA restores pilot safety messaging system. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, has restored its pilot safety messaging system, which had experienced a temporary outage. The system is vital for the safety of pilots as it provides real-time information about weather, air traffic, and any potential hazards while people are in flight. Now, the temporary failure of this system had caused significant disruptions, grounding flights, and delaying critical communication between air traffic control and flight crews. With the system now back online, the FAA has reaffirmed its commitment to flight safety, and pilots are once again able to rely on this critical tool. This incident highlights the increasing dependence on technology in aviation and the need for robust backup systems to ensure continuous service. But the question is, why? This is the question. Why did the FAA's monitoring system go down? Like, nobody really says that. Well, the FAA official stated that it was, and I quote, honest mistake that cost the country millions, close quote. It was later determined that the contractor from Spatial Front, Inc. unintentionally deleted files while, quote unquote, working to correct synchronization between the live primary database and a backup database. All I have to say is a lot of these companies, it could be the federal government, right, national security, even some local schools that I've done work with, they're all about trying to save a buck, okay, by hiring people that are less money. But what you actually get when you do that is you get what you pay for. You do not get professionalism. I'm just being honest, all right? The FCC actually investigates Chinese firms like Huawei for telecom violations. And the Federal Communications Commission has ramped up its investigation into several Chinese telecom. So I think that's important to understand that these telecom companies, including Huawei, to determine if they have been circumvented the U.S. telecoms restriction laws that were passed. This comes after years of mounting tensions regarding national security concerns, as Chinese firms, ladies and gentlemen, are believed to have close ties to the Chinese government. The FCC's inquiry could have widespread implications for these companies' operations in the U.S., potentially limiting their access to critical U.S. markets and suppliers, with the telecommunications industry being a backbone of global digital infrastructure. This investigation is likely to reshape the future of, yes, international trade and communication, especially in the 5G technology deployment. Now, my question, I know a lot of you are saying, is, so what is coming next after 5G? Well, they're working on something. People have been asking, will there be, and this is a good question, will there be a 6G after cellular? And so, current predictions suggest that 6G is somewhere in the region of 8 years away. Early commercial deployments have been estimated at 2028 or 2029, followed by a wider rollout after 2030. Although nothing has yet been set in stone, many countries are carrying out ongoing research in the 6G technology. Of course, that means people are going to have to get all new phones, but we do that every year anyway. And some more news about our good friends Meta. Well, Meta's Instagram outage in the United States almost is resolved, according to Meta. The parent company of the Instagram has worked to resolve a significant outage affecting U.S. users of popular platform that many use here. The outage had left millions of users unable to access their accounts, upload photos, or interact with content for several hours. Now, Meta has apologized for the disruption and is working to ensure that such issues do not reoccur in the future. This incident has drawn attention to the reliability of large social media networks and the challenges of maintaining their infrastructures, especially when dealing with millions of active users. Despite the brief disruption, Meta's swift action in restoring services highlights the importance of rapid response times for global tech companies. So my question is, why did Meta have an outage? Why? Well, the outage took place, again, not too long ago, as we know, and thousands of people reported more than 4,300 users reported issues, most of which were comments and the app. On Facebook, outage reports began increasing a little bit later, which is about a half hour later, and peaked around up to 830 reports. About 2 hours later, reports began to rise again after dipping, with almost 2,000 now reported on Instagram and 200 on Facebook. Most issues on Facebook, 45% reported with the website, followed by 32% with login issues, 23% with the app. Meta hadn't publicly commented on the issue just before 11 a.m. and didn't immediately answer when many reporters had asked for comment. The Meta status site showed that as of 10:05 a.m., a few days ago, there were medium disruptions with Facebook Ads Manager and ad delivery and workplace from Meta, but no known issues with the other platforms. But we still didn't get an answer as to why. We hear all this nonsense, but why? Nobody really knows. Was it some mistake in house? Did they do something wrong? Who knows? But they're never really transparent with anybody, whether you're a business, whether you're a consumer. Google wasn't transparent either, and and we have actually learned that, right? So I think some people don't realize that transparency is key for success. And here's an interesting coinky dink. China mandates voluntary facial recognition for verification. So China has passed new regulations that mandate the use of voluntary facial recognition technology for verification in a variety of sectors, including finance, telecommunications, and transportation. While some argue that this will enhance convenience and security, others are concerned about privacy and the potential for surveillance overreach. This move is seen as part of China's broader strategy to advance its digital infrastructure, positioning facial recognition as a key tool for personal identification and verification. However, with growing concerns over different privacy rights and data security, this policy will likely spark debates on how to balance technological innovation with personal freedoms in an increasingly digitized world. Now, people have often asked, when you buy an iPhone, does Apple have your face image? So when you set up your Face ID on iPhone, Apple doesn't store an image of your face, but rather a mathematical representation of your face's key features, which is encrypted and stored locally on the device. But the question is, do they have access to it? So they claim that Face ID doesn't capture or store a picture of your face. Instead, it creates a unique encrypted mathematical model of your face's key features, which is what happens every time it does facial recognition. It's really not looking at your face. It's doing a mathematical calculation. The model is stored securely within the device's secure enclave, a dedicated chip that protects sensitive data. It's never backed up or transmitted, and the Face ID data is never backed up to iCloud or transmitted to Apple servers. you need to set up Face ID again on a new device as the data is tied to the specific iPhone. So the question is Apple lying to us about storing your face? This is a great question. No, they say Apple's not lying about storing your face. It does seem very plausible that they're not, that it is just being used on the device. But I know a lot of people that are cynics are always saying, oh, that can't be. But I tend to believe that they're probably not storing it. But the fact that they can grab the mathematical data and analyze it, that still has to be stored somewhere. They say it's only in the local device, but I just have this feeling that sometimes your Apple face calculation is shared. Maybe it doesn't share maybe it doesn't share what you think, like your face. But the question is Apple sharing your face? And this is a question, and this is my real question, is Apple sharing your face with apps? So it says that they don't share your face data with apps. Instead, apps are only notified if Face ID authentication is successful, and they cannot access the actual Face ID or the enrolled face data itself. But the question is, your Face ID data is stored as a mathematical representation within the secure enclave, which is a secure part of your iPhone, which I said before. Apps are only receiving authentication results, such as was it a yes or no? Did it validate? Like a 0 for basically for false, for non-valid, and 1 if it matched. Apps cannot, they claim, access Face ID data. Apps do not have access to the Face ID data or the mathematical representation of your face. Apple has implemented various security measures to protect Face ID data, including storing it in secure enclave and preventing apps from accessing it. So the question you might be asking is, what is Apple's secure enclave for storing your face? Well, it's embedded with the T2 chip. It's a secure enclave, which is a specific part of the chip used to store especially sensitive information such as passcodes, biometric data of a device such as a Face ID, Touch ID, or the Apple Pay data. You might be saying, what does the Apple Secure Enclave do? Well, the Secure Enclave is a dedicated secure subsystem integrated into the Apple system on a chip, and the Secure Enclave is isolated from the main processor to provide an extra layer of security and is designed to keep sensitive user data secure even when the application processor kernel becomes compromised. So it sounds good, but there still could be a potential that it could leak. I don't know if I believe that 100%. Anyway, Elon Musk faces an SEC lawsuit over delayed Twitter strike. This is a bit of a sticky wicket that he's gotten himself into. And it's funny how he just manages to do like whatever he wants, right? So Elon Musk is facing a lawsuit from the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, that's the SEC for short, after it was revealed that he delayed the disclosure of a significant stake in Twitter, which he eventually acquired in 2022. According to the SEC, Musk violated disclosure rules that are designed to ensure fairness and transparency in the stock market. This case is part of Musk's ongoing tussles with regulatory bodies, as the tech mogul has frequently been in the spotlight for his actions related to his companies, particularly Tesla, and we all know Twitter. This lawsuit could have long-term implications, not only for Musk's personal dealings, but also for how executives disclose stock purchases and financial information in the tech sector. We've seen this before, ladies and gentlemen. We have seen that many tech businesses have, let's say, played unfairly, is the best way to say it, played unfairly with the SEC so they could buy stock. We call it the unfair exchange. And it's a problem. It's a really big problem. And I think they're now starting to realize that this insider trade issue, which is really what it is is becoming more of just a financial issue, but a security issue at large. Big tech's expanding data centers are straining U.S. power grids, we're starting to realize. As big tech companies like Amazon, Google, and Microsoft expand their global infrastructure, they are placing increasing strain on the U.S. power grid. And data centers require vast amounts of electricity to power servers and cool their systems. And many of these facilities are located in areas already experiencing energy shortages. This rapid expansion has sparked concerns about the sustainability of energy sources and whether the grid can handle the increased demand without leading to power outages or disruptions. There is an urgent need for these companies, ladies and gentlemen, to adopt greener and more efficient energy technology procedures to prevent further stress on the U.S. power infrastructure and contribute to reducing the environment impact of their operations. So the question you might be asking is, how do we know the big tech is putting strain on the data center power grid? I think when we start to hear the numbers, right, this is the problem, right? Data center disconnections threaten grid stability. This, according to regulators, grid operators are facing resistance from data centers on proposals for a fix. Texas incidents highlight risks of sudden disconnections by crypto miners. So I think we're starting to realize that this is real because the numbers are happening. And one of the important quotes that came out from John Moore, Director of Reliability Assessment and System Analysis for the NERC, had told reporters, quote, "As these data centers get bigger and consume more energy, the grid is not designed to withstand the loss of 1,500 megawatt data centers." So again, we're not just talking about one data center, we're talking about a lot. So the question is, how many data centers are there in the world that use over 1,500 megawatts? A lot. So just to let you know something, the initial investment of a 100 megawatt data center cost range, depending on the size and scope of the project, between $600 to $1,000 per square foot, or $7 million to $12 million per megawatt of IT load. Whoa, that's a lot. $7 million to $12 million per megawatt load. And we're talking 1,500 megawatts. So the question you might be asking is, how many megawatts does a typical power grid handle? It's a great question. A typical power grid can handle a massive amount of power, with the U.S. having nearly 1.3 million megawatts of generation capacity. And this was back in 2023. And the capacity set across over 640,000 miles. But again, this is getting scary because people are just starting to drink this up like water, and it's becoming a big problem. Amazon, yep, they're back in the news again, folks. If you didn't know what they're doing, well, they're up to something again, and here's what it is. Amazon loses the appeal against the £812 million European Union data privacy fine that was issued. Amazon has been dealt a major blow in Europe after losing an appeal against the £812 million fine for violating the European Union's basically fine for violating the privacy laws. Now, the fine stems from complaints regarding on how Amazon handles customer data, especially relating to the collection and use of personal information. This ruling marks a significant moment in the ongoing battle between tech giants and European regulators who are cracking down on violations of the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation. You probably heard of it before, the GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. The fine is one of the largest imposed on a tech company under the GDPR and serves as a warning to other firms operating in Europe about the importance of complying with stringent data privacy rules. And Apple So Apple TV Plus loses over $1 billion annually. Ouch. That's quite a bit, guys, isn't it? That's quite a bit of money that they are losing. And I think something has to obviously be done about that, right? Well, they're not too happy either about what's going on. So this is 1 billion annually that they're losing. Apple TV Plus is facing a significant challenge as it continues to lose over 1 billion annually in its quest to compete with streaming giants like Netflix, Disney Plus, and Amazon Prime Video. Despite a long lineup of original content and increased investment in production, the service has yet to become profitable. This financial strain comes at a time when competition in the streaming industry has reached unprecedented levels, with consumers having more options than ever before. Apple's long-term strategy will need to evolve if it hopes to challenge the dominance of its rivals and achieve profitability in the highly competitive streaming market. Right? Everywhere you go, somebody is streaming something. There's something available, right? So that is becoming a serious, serious issue for a lot of people. And ladies and gentlemen, Google and Apple, yes, they're up again. They actually are, well, they're facing investigations from the European Union over Digital Markets Act violations, the DMA. The European Union has launched investigations into both Google and Apple for potential violations of the DMA, the Digital Markets Act, a new set of regulations designed to curb anti-competitive practices by big tech companies. Now, the DMA is intended to level the playing field for smaller and, of course, the companies in the tech ecosystem, ensuring the dominant players like Google and Apple and Amazon don't abuse their market power. The investigations will focus on whether these companies are using their dominance in app stores and online platforms to engage in unfair practices that harm consumers and other businesses. It's funny how, all these companies seem so big, but what's interesting about these companies, and a lot of them, is that they're doing something wrong. I remember, so my tech company is now over 31 years young. I remember over 20, 25, 27 years ago, there was a gentleman that reached out to me. And I told him they were wanting, I think at the time it was Windows, I think at that time it might have been Windows 90. I think it was Windows 98 at the time. Windows 98. And he asked me if I can get him a good price. And I said, yes, I can get you a great price. He's okay, fantastic. So I got him this price, and he told me that he could beat it. So I wasn't making a lot of money, maybe because I was selling him like 500 or 1,000 copies. I was maybe making $5 or $6, right? So $5,000-$6,000, right? Well, he says I can get it. He says I can get it for $5 less. Well, that was like cutting in. That was at my cost. And so a lot of these people, what they do when they get these things is they sell the license multiple times, and that should be illegal, ladies and gentlemen. But a lot of people do this. They sell the license multiple times, and they hope they never get caught. That's very bad practice. So the reason I'm bringing this up is that a lot of these companies that just escalate to the top overnight, they quickly fall many years later because they've done something that's unethical. It's like you doing something, and then later on, after many years, you find out that it wasn't right. Like, for example, let's say you're building something like this big structure, but then after 4 or 5 years, you start to have a problem with the structure because maybe you didn't use full cement, or you didn't use high quality pilings to go in, whatever it was. You thought you were saving the money. You charged the customer the higher price, and guess what? It collapsed, but you didn't use what you said you were going to use. Well, Zoox recalls 258 self-driving vehicles due to braking system issues. Zoox, Amazon's, autonomous vehicle subsidiary, has issued a recall of 258 self-driving cars. due to a critical braking system issue. Now, the recall comes after the company discovered that certain vehicles had a defect that could cause the brakes to malfunction, posing, of course, a safety risk. The recall highlights the ongoing challenges of developing and deploying self-driving technology, where even small issues can have significant safety implications. Zoox is working to correct the issues, but this incident underscores the need for rigorous testing and safety protocols as the autonomous vehicle industry continues to evolve. Now, many people have asked me, who manufactures Amazon's electric trucks? I get this question all the time. So the company is Rivian. EVs are made in partnership with Rivian, the California-based automaker that also produces electric pickup trucks and SUVs. The question you might be asking about this is a Chinese company? No, Rivian Automotive is an American electric vehicle manufacturer, not a Chinese company. Rivian was founded in 2009 by R.G. Scaringe. The headquarters is Rivian's headquarters are in Irvine, California. The manufacturing area has manufactured and still does in the plant in Normal, Illinois. Its publicly traded company went public in 2021, and the Rivian vehicles produce electric vehicles, including R1T pickup trucks, R1S SUVs. So the next question you're probably asking me is, how much do the Amazon electric trucks cost? Well, that's a great question. The cost of those vehicles, each one that you see on the road, start around $79,900 for the RCV 500 and $83,900. So when you see the smaller ones, that's the RCV 500. And the RCV 700 is the $83,900 model. So, it's interesting. They have more than 20,000 Rivian delivery vans in the United States. They're very interesting. I think the lights are very interesting on them. And people often ask me, what are the type of lights they use on the Amazon truck? It's very interesting. Basically, they are it's a neat design, okay, that they have. I mean, they're very interesting in the way they are. They're an LED type light. They have high beams, and they also have what they call a light bar. So oftentimes it blinds everybody if you're near one of these drivers. They have them because they're supposed to be used off-road, but not on-road. But many of the drivers are actually using them on-road, so that's not a great thing. So we'll keep you in the breast of what's going on there. And the European Union, ladies and gentlemen, we're up with them again, orders Apple to open its ecosystem to competitors under the DMA, Digital Markets Act. Now, the European Union has ordered Apple to open its ecosystem to more competition under the Digital Markets Act, and this decision is part of an ongoing effort to basically curb the monopolistic practices of tech giants by ensuring that smaller companies have fair access to major platforms like iOS. The order requires Apple to allow third-party app stores and payment systems on its platform, which could drastically alter how the company operates. The move has been celebrated by competitors unfortunately, it was criticized by Apple, which of course it was, which argues that such changes could compromise user privacy and security. Well, does it or does it not? See, I think that's an interesting challenge there. It's a catch-22, but it could be a big problem. It could be a big problem. And hey, Hong Kong introduces a new cybersecurity law to protect key facilities. Hong Kong passed a cybersecurity law on March 19, 2025. aimed at regulating operators of critical infrastructure such as banking, energy, healthcare, and communications to bolster their computer system security. The law mandates operators to conduct annual risk assessments and biannual independent audits with penalties for non-compliance ranging from anywhere from 500,000 to 5 million in their funds, and it is set to take effect in 2026. The law also requires serious security incidents to be reported within 2 hours. While the law seeks to protect vital systems from disruptions that could cause harm to society and the economy, it may raise compliance costs, potentially deterring foreign investment in Hong Kong. Wow, that's really a mouthful there, if you ask me. And Tesla. Yes, Tesla secures the first permit for robotaxis in California. So, for their Public Utilities Commission, the CPUC, for a transportation charter party carrier permit, which is necessary for launching its robotaxi service in California. This permit allows Tesla to own and control a fleet of vehicles for prearranged trips, but does not authorize the company to provide autonomous ride-hailing services to the public. Tesla still needs additional permits from the California Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV, and the CPUC to operate fully autonomous robotaxis. Tesla aims to launch its driverless ride-hailing services in California and Texas later in this year. So again, it allows Tesla to own and control a fleet of vehicles for prearranged trips, but does not authorize the company to provide autonomous ride-hailing services to the public. So that's going to be very interesting, what's happening there. I think a lot of this technology is great, but my big concern is that it's getting pushed out to the market way, way too fast. And quality control is it's just not there anymore, right? It's just not there. And I think that is a very, very big problem. And I know a lot of people are saying, oh, hey, I'm going to lose money, right? But if you launch something and it's going to cost them more money, that could be a more serious problem. Yeah, I think most people don't appreciate the fact that security is in place to protect us, not harm us. Does that make sense, everybody? And maybe you're saying to me, hey, John, like this doesn't affect me. Well, maybe it doesn't affect you directly, but it could indirectly. And I think that's the real concern at the end of the day. People push these products out. They don't worry about how much quality is driven in them. They just worry about how much profit they're going to make. And that's a serious, serious issue, guys. I mean, a really serious issue. I know other people saying, John, there's no issue. It's that I just want to keep putting money in my pocket. I get that. So as we talked about today, before we wrap up, because we have a little bit more time left, ByteDance, the investors lead TikTok deal talk. So if the U.S. government pushes through with a partial buyout or restructuring, this could signal an emerging trend where foreign-owned tech companies faced heightened security into the United States to ensure national security. By allowing non-Chinese investors to control TikTok's U.S. operations, the platform could mitigate what we call geopolitical tensions while keeping its vast user base intact. Now, there's still the discussion of, do we sell TikTok with the algorithm? So people say, how much is TikTok with the algorithm? And I think they wanted close to like, what was it, $200 million? How much is TikTok without the algorithm? I think it was going to come in like 40, right? So they're saying 200 billion. Now they're saying that it's basically well north of 100 billion with the algorithm. but they're saying 200 billion, but I think that's a little high, right? How about how much is TikTok without the algorithm? There's been speculation that without the algorithm, it could be worth 40 billion, right? But is the algorithm really working on TikTok? It's an interesting caveat. So we're gonna have to see. I know I've had challenges. They have a lot of security protocols, but just to have them verify your information is so difficult. Is it because they're under so much scrutiny? I don't know. I'm hoping that if it gets under US control, it'll be a lot easier. Even opening up a TikTok shop is like so difficult. And this whole thing with the FAA, the pilot safety messaging system, the outage underscores the aging infrastructure challenges that FAA faces, not just today, but tomorrow and the years to come. A major overhaul of the air traffic control system seems to be imminent for our safety, with an increasing focus on implementing modern technologies like AI and satellite-based systems for better reliability and efficiency. However, I think we've got to be concerned about where we're going with this technology, and is this something that's going to help us, or is it something going to hinder us, or is it also going to bring us more possibilities that Pandora's doors can be opened and more exploitation could happen? And we learned today that the FCC is probing Chinese firms for evading U.S. restrictions. The investigation, as we said, could lead to tighter restrictions and more regulations for Chinese tech firms operating in the United States. If proven that these companies are bypassing restrictions, it may spark a more stringent global regulatory, geopolitical regulatory framework, especially in sectors like telecommunication and cybersecurity. Now, Meta's Instagram outage was a little bit of a challenge. Despite the fast recovery, the outage highlights the vulnerability of large tech platforms to system failures. As social media increases and becomes more integral in daily life, platforms like Instagram may need to focus on improving redundancy and backup systems to avoid future disruptions. But maybe that needs to become more of a mandate and not something that's optional, because when so many people rely on it, that's a big problem. And this whole thing about China's facial recognition regulation, China's move to regulate facial recognition technology is a response to global political concerns about privacy and surveillance. While it shows a willingness to address privacy concerns, it could also be seen as a step toward more comprehensive data governance in the country, which could influence global privacy practices in technology and many other segments, ladies and gentlemen. And we all know Elon Musk is always doing something creative. The SEC case against Musk just highlights the ongoing regulatory scrutiny of major tech figures. It also brings attention to legal complexities surrounding transparency and financial dealings, things like insider trading, etc., particularly with influencers and entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs whose actions affect public companies. And I think that's something that we never thought was possible, but we're learning that this is becoming a very big key to our world. And big tech data centers. We learned a lot about this, right? I mean, thinking about the fact of where big data centers are going, or, what they're doing. I think this is something that it's a big problem. It is when I say a huge problem, it is a huge, huge problem. And so, big tech data centers, basically causing strain on the grid. It's not something that people think is so important. The rapid expansion of big tech centers, it is putting pressure on the grid. That's a fact. And Center Alley, a 30 square mile stretch outside of Washington, D.C., and home to more than 200 data centers, eats up nearly the same electricity as Boston. That is scary, right? We learned how much it costs, and that was a little frightening, wasn't it? So they've got to come up with other ways, I think, to address this. The expansion of the data centers could cause long-term strain on not only some short-term needs, but also U.S. electrical needs, as well as even government needs. This is a challenge that lies in balancing growth and tech with a concern of also sustainable energy solutions, but also making sure that they stay safe and secure while pushing forward for that green energy to be in all data centers. That's a concern, guys. That is a huge concern. So we'll have to see. And Amazon losing the privacy fine appeal. The ruling highlights Europe's commitment to enforcing GDPR and growing importance of data privacy regulations globally. Amazon's continued legal battles with the European Union are just starting and could prompt other tech giants to adjust their data privacy practices in order to avoid similar scrutiny. So I think hopefully these lessons are teaching people that they need to change their ways or they're going to be in trouble. And we learned today about Google and Apple facing the European Union crackdown. The DMA Act, which came into effect not too long ago, is part of the European Union strategy to curb the dominance. And people say, when did the DMA Act start? It started November 11th, 2022, following the initial proposal of the European Commission in December of 2020. The regulation was adopted by the European Parliament and the Council on September 14, 2022. It was published in the Official Journal on October 12, 2022, and the DMA entered into force on November 1st, 2022, and became applicable on May 2nd, 2023. Wow, that's quite a bit, guys. And so they're hoping that this is going to demotivate companies to do the wrong thing and motivate them to do the right thing. If it's successful, which I believe it will be, the crackdown could set, as I said, a precedent for a global regulatory scrutiny, a new standard operating procedure, if you will, leading to similar antitrust measures in other regions like the United States or Asia. But I think the U.S. has been a little behind on this, and hopefully we'll see something from them soon. Zoox recalling vehicles over braking issues. I think it's good that Zoox is stepping up to the plate and doing the right thing. As we know, autonomous vehicles become more prevalent. Safety concerns like these are going to need to be addressed quickly to ensure trust and widespread adoption. The recall might also influence stricter safety regulations for the entire autonomous vehicle sector. I think that's something that we need to see. We need to see that they're not just looking to make a profit. They're looking to build something that is going to be good for everyone and safe. And, with the European Union ordering Apple to open up to rivals, the ruling, they're saying, could reshape how Apple interacts with its competitors, especially in terms of the app development and ecosystem integration. But will this cause problems with the fact that Apple has its own security, and will people potentially get access to that and exploit it? I don't know. This could be a big problem there. And Hong Kong, introducing this new cybersecurity law, I think it's got potential. The law signals a shift toward a more stringent cybersecurity set of regulations, especially as the region faces rising concerns over data protection. While it could increase compliance costs, as we said before, it may also foster a greater trust in Hong Kong's ability to protect critical infrastructure. And we might see this other places too. And Tesla is securing its first permit for robotaxis. It's only the beginning for them, right? Only the beginning. And I know a lot of times people say to me, John, is this profitable? Is it not profitable? I think what I want to say about that is when we build something, whether it's a product or whether it's a service, we have a responsibility to do what's right. That is our responsibility. If we don't, that's obviously a big problem, but we have the responsibility to do it right. All right. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of some understanding. So this week's JMOR Tech Talk Show dived into some of the latest developments in the tech world, from regulatory crackdowns to groundbreaking innovations right here in our backyard, and some that are across the entire country. One of the biggest stories was the ByteDance's investor-led talks to restructure TikTok, a move that could reshape global social media governments amid the rising U.S.-China tensions. Again, what we call the geopolitical. Meanwhile, The FAA, the Federal Aviation Authority, Administration, I should say, Federal Aviation Administration, pilot safety messaging system outage, it did spark some concerns about aging infrastructure in the U.S. air travel, emphasizing the need for modernized air traffic control solutions. And with digital platforms facing increased scrutiny, Meta's Instagram outage served as a reminder of how fragile, ladies and gentlemen, the largest social networks can be. Regulatory oversight remained a major theme this week, as the FCC started investigating Chinese tech firms suspected of bypassing U.S. restrictions, a move that could further strain global tech relations. And meanwhile, in Europe, Apple and Google are facing fresh antitrust scrutiny, and I'm sure we're going to see more, with the European Union pushing for competition in the app marketplace. These regulatory actions align with China's latest facial recognition regulations, which aim to balance privacy concerns with national security interests, with Amazon losing its appeal against a privacy fine. It is very clear, ladies and gentlemen, that global governments are cracking down on big tech's data practices, signaling a new era of accountability. On the innovation front, Tesla took a major step forward by securing its first permit for robotaxis, hinting at what the future could look like, where autonomous ride-hailing services could become mainstream. However, Zook's recall of self-driving vehicles due to braking issues reminds us that the road to autonomy is still full of challenges, and they did show a good act of faith by responding immediately. Meanwhile, Apple streaming services are struggling to gain profitability, losing nearly $1 billion annually, highlighting the intense competition in the entertainment industry. As big tech continues expanding and growing, and their infrastructures surpass new limits, the rise of data centers has put pressure on U.S. power grid, raising concerns about sustainability. Does this mean that we need to be smarter about the technology we deploy? Does it mean that we need to make sure that the solutions we deploy are using less energy? And that's everything from the hardware to the software that's written, right? Do we have to make sure things are more compact? These are things we have to think about. From privacy concerns to self-driving breakthroughs, this week's show highlighted the growing pains and challenges of an evolving tech landscape. Whether it's regulatory battles reshaping the industry, companies struggling to adapt to new rules, or innovation pushing the boundary of what's possible, one thing is clear, ladies and gentlemen. Technology is advancing at a breakneck pace. And as we move forward, businesses, governments, consumers, all together, we must continually navigate the challenges carefully to ensure a future that balances innovation with secureness and fairness. And I think as we get ready to wrap up, I hope that this has given you some insights. I hope it's opened your eyes. Okay? And maybe you're like, John, this is like too far out there. Well, I got news for you. It's not too far out there. It's literally right around the corner. It's right around the corner. And so if it's right around the corner, we should be aware of it, right? This takes me back to a time when my mom had her own dry cleaning plant. And I actually was the OSHA officer when I got basically out of grammar school. So OSHA officer is the Occupational for Safety and Health Administration. And they have a program called the Right to Know. OSHA's Right to Know is the Hazard Communication Standard, HCS, which ensures workers receive information and training about hazardous chemicals and protective measures, including access to safety data sheets. We call them MSDS, but they changed it. Material safety data sheets. Now they just call them SDS, safety data sheets. And so the thing to understand about this, which I think is really key and many people miss, and I just really want to give you a very quick overview about this, but I think it is very, very key that we understand, where this is going and why this is going a certain way. I think this is something that many people they miss because they think that it's not important when it actually is extremely important. Identify hazardous chemicals, provide information training, provide access to the SDS sheets, and label containers. The key rights for employees: you have a right to know. Employees have the right to know about the hazards of the chemicals they are exposed to. The right to training. Employees have the right to receive training on how to handle hazardous chemicals safely. Have the right to access SDSs. Employees have the right to access safety data sheets for the chemicals they work with. OSHA enforces the HCS, and they can issue citations to employers who fail to comply with the standard. So what does this mean? In short, it means that if you're in a workplace and they have hazardous chemicals, they need to be educating you on what they are. They need to be labeled, and you need to be aware of them. And if they don't, well, you either need to say something to them, and if they still don't respond, then you need to reach out to OSHA. Because OSHA compliance is not hard, but I will tell you, there are no playing games with OSHA. Yeah, there is no games with OSHA. They will fine you. Okay, they will fine you. The number one OSHA violation for the fiscal year of 2024 was fall protection general requirements, hazard communications, and also ladders. So general requirement violations like mislabels, no labels, hazard communications, not letting people know, and ladders. You have to listen to OSHA. Yes, OSHA can conduct unannounced inspections, and employers have the right to request that compliance officers obtain a warrant before entering the work site. So there's a lot of things that can happen there. Guys, I have really enjoyed doing this with you guys today. And I hope that this is something that you learned a lot about. I mean, I really hope it's something that you learned from. Remember, we had fun today on this show. We shared a lot about energy. We shared a lot about technology. Social media is turbulent, and so is technology all around us. As the tech world pushes forward, the balance between innovation, regulation, public trust, and security remains more crucial than any time before. It is us standing together as one that protects our life and, of course, protects our welfare and all of our communications and ensures a very happy, healthy life. Ladies and gentlemen, I am John C. Morley, serial entrepreneur. It's always such a privilege, a pleasure, and honor to be with you here on every one of my shows, including the JMOR Tech Talk Show. I'll catch you guys real soon next week in April. Be